Welcome to That's the Word, wholesome tales for the whole family. I'm Father James Yamauchi. Today's story, The Fiery Inferno. Hellfire could not be much worse than this inferno. The year had been unusually dry, leaving the forest as nothing more than a massive pile of kindling. All that was needed was a spark to set the countryside ablaze. As the flames rose on the horizon, farmers and their families rushed to the local chapel. Some even brought their cattle. While there was no priest assigned to the chapel, there were a few sisters who taught the local children. They welcomed the fleeing families. Some wanted to try and outrun the fire, but the sisters were determined to not abandon the chapel. The chapel was dedicated to Mary. They would pray for her intercession. The sisters had several of the farmers reverently raise the statue of Mary on their shoulders, and all who gathered there processed around the chapel with the statue. With their rosaries, they begged God to spare them and the Blessed Virgin to intercede on their behalf. The high winds blew clouds of thick smoke around the chapel. The procession had to be adjusted to prevent the petitioners from suffocating, but they continued to pray. For hours, they prayed. The flames licked the property fence. Still, they prayed. Then the rains came, drizzling at first, but eventually in a downpour. The flames reached the fence, but got no further. When the smoke cleared, the land had been decimated. Everything in the area was burned to the ground. Towns were wiped off the map. 1.2 million acres were burned. Thousands of people were dead, making this wildfire the deadliest in history. However, nothing on the chapel grounds was harmed. Everyone who fled to the chapel survived. Even the cattle survived. Despite the chapel well being shallow and other wells in the area going dry, the chapel well never went dry and provided enough water for the people and the animals. Thus, the Blessed Virgin protected the chapel entrusted to her care, erected on the spot where she appeared to Adele Breeze, and instructed her to gather the children in this wild country and teach them what they should know for salvation. A shrine near Green Bay, Wisconsin, dedicated to Our Lady of Good Help. And for this week, that's the word.
We want to thank Pat for suggesting the topic of Our Lady of Good Help for a story. So thank you very much, Pat. And this was a very interesting topic to research.
Especially when you consider the deadliness of this fire, which a lot of people have not heard about because At the same time that this fire is going on, you also have the Great Chicago Fire. We're talking about the year 1871 during the month of October.
Right. At that time, the situation in Wisconsin and Chicago is similar. It was very dry. It was very windy, perfect conditions for a massive firestorm to erupt. This Peshtigo fire ended up taking the lives of a few thousand people, far more than the 300 that died in the Chicago fire. But it's been forgotten mostly because it happened on the same day, and Chicago is a much bigger city.
And to be honest, prior to this story, again, thanks to Pat for the listener suggestion, I did not know much about Our Lady of Good Help.
Mary, as Our Lady of Good Help, appeared to Adele Breeze, who was a 28-year-old Belgian immigrant in the late 1800s. She told Adele to pray for sinners and to teach the children of the country the catechism.
It's very interesting. The last thing she said was she said, teach them what they should know for salvation. That's a wonderful reminder for us as Christians that everything we do should be aimed for the salvation of souls. I love the quote from St. Don Bosco where he says, give me souls. And actually, that's the motto for the Salesians, give me souls. And that's a great reminder Our Lady gives us through Adele, is that everything that we do, say, think, should always be directed for the salvation of souls, because that is what Christ's mission is. As we are reminded by St. Paul's letter to Timothy, God desires all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth.
Now, if you happen to know why Mary at this apparition is called Our Lady of Good Help, we would really like to know, because we've not been able to find any reference as to why she is called Our Lady of Good Help.
And also, if you have been to this shrine before, we would love to hear from you. We've done other stories about other locations that have special Catholic significance, other shrines. And it's been wonderful when people have said, oh, I've been there, because John Peter and I have not been to this shrine and many of the other shrines in the United States. One other important detail about this apparition is that in 2010, it received approval by the Catholic Church in the United States. Thus, it is the first and only apparition that is approved which occurred here in the United States. So that is something very special indeed.
If you enjoy That's the Word, please share the word. You can see the story extras for this story, The Fiery Inferno, at thunderrock.org, where you can also find information about the Shrine of Our Lady of Good Help. Thunderrock.org is also where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter, and where you can find our social links in our email if you have any feedback or story ideas like Pat did.
Thanks for listening, and join us next Wednesday for another wholesome tale for the whole family.